Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. At this time, I will call to order the regularly scheduled board meeting for the Village of Midlothian, May 22nd, 2019 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cagney?
Here.
Trustee Crowley?
Here.
Trustee Gillis? Here. Trustee Ivan?
Here.
Trustee Killily?
Here.
Trustee Kreis?
Here.
Mayor LaRue?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence for our fallen veterans. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, now you refresh.
At this time, Deputy Chief McClellan is here to give a presentation award for the Paramedic of the Year.
It doesn't say June. Mine not activated yet. Yes, it does. Mine doesn't.
The Midlothian Fire Department would like to make Michael Dillenbeck the Paramedic of the Year for 2019. His award is hereby awarded to Michael Dillenbeck for outstanding service to our community and department by demonstrating an independent initiative in areas of quality assurance, patient care, medical control, and disaster preparedness. For your continued education and training, you have demonstrated support and dedication to the department, the EMS, the community, and your profession.
He knows where he's getting the hugs, okay?
While we are proud of all of our firefighter paramedics, congratulations on the award, and keep up the good work, every one of you, each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Chief, you don't want to stay?
You gotta use that vacation up on the end of the month. I've been made aware that the certificate for the volunteer will happen today. Is that true?
If that's correct.
Be postponed to a later date. All right, moving on. Any members of any village commissions or committees here tonight? Senior, Water Commission. Zoning Board.
Natalie Krieg.
Natalie Krieg.
Keep Midlothian beautiful.
Rita Sarn.
Keep Midlothian beautiful.
Local organizations.
Sarnie Friends of the Library.
Outstanding event there at that, they keep it on the table event. That was then we'll move on to public comment. If you'd like to make be a matter of public record, please stand, state your name and address, and please use the microphone so that Helmet up there can hear you. Rita.
I just have a quick question before we get into it. What's a Sidwell on number 6?
Sidwell is well, all these people here can tell you, but they're the big maps that show every property in the Village of Midlothian, come in a bunch of different pages. It's what is referenced quite a bit by building, public works, engineering. So ours is from 1928, I think.
Just slightly better.
What do you think? 60s? 60s, you think?
Yeah, it's very old.
And it's never been documents and maps quite often, and ours has never been updated.
Just a quick note.
Well, our Sidwell hasn't been updated. Sidwell has updated it. The village has never purchased any updates. So our map that we own has never been updated. That's why we need to buy a brand new one.
Just came up recently, I was out the garage sale day, and we're speaking to a homeowner there on Kilbourne, and there's a vacant piece of property to his north, and he was inquiring about it, and Superintendent Weiner went to the Cook County maps and stuff, and it was just so blank, so he had to reference to Sid Wills to find a pin and everything, so it shows 148 plates, not a pin, but, so they're important. Anything else? Okay, close the floor to public comment, move on to tonight's consent agenda. On tonight's consent agenda, we have number 1, approval to engage Andy Marlin to provide weed control service at the Rain Ready Community Garden and adjacent lawn at the total cost of $540. Number 2, approval to award the installation and completion of the permeable parking lot adjacent to the Rain Ready Community Garden to Great Lakes Landscape Company in the amount of $104,500. That says $104 million. That's an expensive.
Zeros.
That would really be an expensive parking lot.
The correct number should be $104,500. Number 3, approval for the Public Safety Director to install safety lighting on the newly purchased F-150 for the building department, not to exceed $1,471.90. Number 4, approval of the committee meeting minutes for March 20th, 2019. Approval of board meeting minutes for March 27th, 2019. Approval to purchase a Sidwell at a cost of $653. Approval of the list of bills. Approval of the April 2019 Treasurer's Report. Number 9, approval of the April 2019 Building Department Report. Number 10, approval of the April 2019 Fire Department Report. Number 11, approval of the April 2019 Health Department Report. Number 12, approval of the April 2019 Police Department Report. Number 13, approval of the April 2019 Public Works Department Report. Is there any item, any trustee would like off tonight's consent agenda?
Mayor, I would like to remove number 2.
Removing number 2. Anyone else?
Number 1.
Number 1. Anyone else?
Number 9.
Not doing so well tonight.
How about 3, 4, and 8? I have questions. so
Playing the
it's-
lotto? 3, 4, and 8. Is it a trifecta? Okay.
I think in light of the extensive changes we made, should read the ones that are going to be approved
I will read the ones that we are going to approve
by
tonight.
consent.
So I am asking for a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, which would be number 5, approval of board meeting minutes for March 27th, 2019. Number 6, approval to purchase a Sidwell at a cost of $653. Number 7, approval of the list of bills. Number 10 is the approval of the April 2019 Fire Department Report. Number 11 is the approval of the April 2018 Health Department Report. Number 12, approval of the April 2019 Police Department Report. And number 13, approval of the April 2019 Public Works Department Report.
I'll make the motion.
So is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Ivan. Aye. Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Katie.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Can we take care of these before we move on to trustee business? Is that okay with the board?
Sure.
I am looking for a motion to approve to engage Andy Marlin to provide weed control service at the Rain Ready Community Garden and adjacent lawn at the total cost of $540.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question. So I was looking at this, and I'm sorry, Don, I didn't get to ask you before, so I
But you're
apologize.
right. It's just for the lawn, not for the garden.
Oh,
And it says right up at the top, and he circled it, it says excludes.
the garden, so who's going to take care of that?
That's what Julia Plum is taking care of.
Okay.
And she was supposed to, I talked to her over the weekend, she was supposed to be there. She told me she was gonna be,
I know what you're gonna say.
she told me that she was gonna be out this week to take care of the first maintenance at the rain garden.
That's all I have.
So will you amend your motion to approve to engage Andy Marlin to provide weed control service at the adjacent lawn to the Rain Ready Community Garden?
I will.
And will you amend your second, trustee Grace?
I will, and I also think, under discussion, it should say to engage greenscape, landscaping, If you look at the top of the
Yeah, we're
invoice,
not engaging Andy Marlin
we're
personally.
we're
this
engaging
company.
Greenscape Tree and Turf
Oh,
Professionals.
it's cut off, I can't see that.
Yeah, you see that?
No, I can
Way
just
at
see
the bottom.
turf professional.
It's supposed to say Greenscape.
Because trustee Kreis has raised a substantive issue, I think the motion will have to be amended to reflect her concern.
I'll amend my motion to reflect the trustee price.
And I'll amend my second.
Okay.
Do I need to say it?
No.
No, you just did.
I'm going to say it. So there is a motion and a second to engage Andy Marlin from Greenscape Tree and Turf Professionals.
No, to engage Greenscape Tree and Turf
Oh,
Professionals.
you
That's
just
the
work-
company, yeah.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second on the floor to approve the engagement of Greenscape Tree and Turf Professionals to provide weed control service at the adjacent lawn to the Rain Ready Community Garden at $540. Is there any other discussion? Roll call out.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Kami.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Killily.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Got it covered.
I am looking for a motion to approval to award the installation and completion of the permeable parking lot adjacent to the Rain Ready Community Garden to Great Lakes Landscape Company in the amount of $104,500.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have lots of questions. Take one down and pass it around. Okay, and I apologize, I sent these questions out late in the day because I was just trying to get through everything else. Oops, I need one. Sorry. Okay, I had lots of questions because at the last minute we got, well, not the last minute, but on Monday after bids were opened, we got the two bids to choose from for this rain garden project. And then we got the IGIG documents and the National Fish and Wildlife. So all of this raised a lot of questions, some of which trustee Kreis was able to address to me this afternoon in a late afternoon phone call. So the Prairie Rain Garden out there is only 5,000 feet. As you can see here in the notes, I put that Exhibit A of the IGIG states that this project is going to replace 26,600 square feet of asphalt with 6,700 square feet of porous asphalt, which now has been changed to the permeable bricks. And it's also going to include 14,400 feet of natural area with native seeding and native plugs. My concern is that all of the drawings that have been provided by the engineer showed that this larger 14,000 square foot area, if you look on the, I sent you all last week the three bid documents that were on the village website. And second of those three documents was the Antero set of drawings. On page 3 of the drawings is the depiction of the whole area over there with a legend. And in the legend, it shows that the lawn area with the landscaped islands, that drawing shows that that whole area is going to be native plants. So my concern is that we've seeded it's grass and we have landscape islands, but according to this drawing that was approved by Illinois EPA, it's supposed to be planted and plugged with native plants. So my concern was that we were going to have to tear all that out and redo it. That was one of my concerns. But apparently, it looks like we're going to have some money left over, so if we did have to do that, there may be enough money left over to do that. I don't think we should have to do that, but, because we already have a 5,000 square foot rain garden out there. My other big main question was number 4, what's the total cost of the project? So we're being asked to approve a bid just for the brick parking lot, which is $104,500, but we don't really know what the total cost of this project is. We know that we spent a couple $1,000s to get a survey. We know we paid Antero, we approved a change order for approximately $2,800. I don't recall what Antero's initial engineering contract price was for this, and I don't know what other expenses we're going to incur, this project is going to incur. I know that we were required to put a sign up. There was a metal sign that was designed and installed back in August of 2018 that the EPA had to approve, and I don't recall what the cost of that was.
I believe it was approximately $200
And
was
did we
going.
pay for it, or was it already paid for out of grant funds?
It
I don't really
hasn't
know.
even, because everything was at a standstill, it hasn't even been ordered. We had to, and Superintendent Sperry's department was going to install the sign.
Do we have the sign?
No, we do not have the sign yet.
But was the sign given to the board to review and approve before it goes and gets printed?
I can give it, it hasn't been printed, so it can go to the board. It's been approved by the IEPA.
Okay, well, shouldn't the board take a look at it and make
I
sure
think-
that we like the sign too?
Well, I think the big thing was getting the IEPA.
Because Rain Ready wanted to
did.
make some modifications to the sign, and the IEPA kept on saying, no, no, no.
No,
They
no,
don't
right.
want any, they want it exactly their way. We don't have to, they want to have their wording and exactly the way they want it.
Okay, so at any rate, we are being asked to approve this bid today so that we can move forward and get the bricks installed, but we still don't know, we still have not been given even an estimate of what this total project is going to be, cost.
The major cost for this project is this permeable installation.
Well, I understand that, Karen, but it would still be nice to see what an estimate of all, of what everything is.
Well,
We're getting it all piecemeal. We don't have one piece of paper. We don't have everything on one piece of paper that shows us everything that's going into this project.
Most of what has gone into that project has been volunteer and free. We had gotten a grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, coastal, I forget what it was, coastal, and that was used for the rain garden. But almost everything over there, just because of Helen and Jackie and Chris and then Theta and sometimes Senior showed up in order to improve that blight, because this money, all of this money was held up for two reasons. The state froze their budget, and then once we got the National Fish and Wildlife, we didn't have the audits, and once we got the first audit, then it was too old and we had to wait for the second audit. So over this period of 5 years, the volunteers just went and took this project on
No,
themselves.
I understand that, and I was part of that group as well. And I have a copy of the National Fish and Wildlife, I think it was pages 12 and 13 or 13, 14, that show what all the in-kind
Right.
donations are. And one of them is $800 for the Midlothian Rain Ready volunteers, so I get that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's probably, that's a gross underestimate now, because they probably put in $80,000 worth of work over there.
Okay, so the reason for asking that question number 4, what is the total cost of the project, then brings me to question number 5. The village has $202,362 in grant funds, plus the $22,000 village match for the IGIG, okay? Just so that everybody is aware, the village is getting $51,922 from IGIG, which is the Illinois EPA, Illinois Green Infrastructure Grant. That's what IGIG stands for. We're also getting $150,440 for the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. All right, so total cash for this is $202,362. However, the village is required to put in a match of $22,252. So my question is, what happens to the excess grant funds if they're not spent? And can the village use the National Fish and Wildlife funds towards our $22,000 match? Are we allowed to do that?
I believe we can. They are not very restrictive. And we have submitted some things to IGIG, and they get paid, they take a long time. We have not submitted anything to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation yet, but we should be able to submit that.
Okay.
And I don't think we're going to end up spending all of that grant money because the National Fish and Wildlife, I think, expires in October.
Okay, with regards to the parking lot striping, there's been a lot of back and forth on this particular matter. I had been told several times that we could not use any of these grant funds to stripe the parking lot.
No, we could stripe the part that was part of the grant. We could not stripe the portion going to the east that is not part of this project.
Well, I was aware of that, but I was told that we couldn't use any of this money for any striping at all.
No, I think we were,
Okay, well, that's just what I want clarification on, because
I will
clearly
double-
on the bid documents that the engineer put together, they included striping. And there's a line item, the last line item on the bid document is for striping. It's for 1,490 lineal feet.
and it wouldn't make sense for somebody to approve a parking lot without the striping, so.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but again, I just want clarification for all of our sake, because we had been told
I
that we
wouldn't-
could not use any of this money for any striping. So I just wanted to
I
be
don't know where
clear.
that came from.
Well, it came from a discussion around this table at some point.
I was personally asked to go to Superintendent Sperry and ask if he could give me an idea what it would cost to stripe the parking lot, so.
I will verify that.
So, because it's listed on the bid. It's the last line item on the bid document. So I just wanted to make sure that we were allowed to use this grant money to stripe a portion of the parking lot. I understand it has to just be on the brick portion.
Correct.
We can't do the rest of it.
And I can verify that.
Okay, and I would ask that by the next meeting we have, which is in 2 weeks, our June 5th meeting, if we can have something, some sort of list, some sort of document that shows, all the different parts and pieces of this grant. Because right now, today, we're just talking about the actual installation of the bricks. I don't know what other work is involved in going in on this.
There really isn't. I mean, Superintendent Sperry, there hasn't been a whole lot of work going in because most of it has been volunteer-driven.
Well, according to both of the sets of grant documents, the village is required to submit reports.
And they've all been submitted.
We still don't know quite sure. Superintendent Sperry's looking into what it's going to cost Public Works going forward as far as equipment and maintenance, so he'll come up with a dollar amount on what's it going to cost the village, Public Works.
I budgeted $10,000 for this year, both parking lots and 3 rain gardens and maintenance.
Okay, I'm going to ask for the last time. We need something in writing, something that outlines every bit of work that's going into this project.
Okay, I'll try and put something together. It has
Okay.
been going on for 5 years.
I
Back and
I
forth,
understand that, but
stop.
if you have just confirmed that the engineers have submitted the required reports, then the information should be in the required reports. I mean, I'm looking at the National Fish and Wildlife document.
There's been nothing submitted other than one report that I had to submit because we just got that grant document and we haven't submitted any reports to them because we have not asked for 1 penny from them.
Okay, well, I'm just asking these questions based on the documents that I have in front of me, Karen.
And there are financial reports that Treasurer Britton has had to submit every year to make sure with the state that we're current. What are those, we've had to be current on those things too with the state for this IGIG grant.
Are you talking about the AFR, the annual thing?
Yes, those things we have to submit so they know that we're still in good standing.
And then we also have to fill out a comptroller's every year in August, fill out a
Yeah, just so we're in good standing.
Okay, it says here, project evaluation and report. Grantee shall prepare a report explaining the execution of the Midlothian Greenway project, i.e. pre- and post conditions, type and location of practices, practice design, methods of practice installation, and evaluating the project's success. I'm assuming that there's got to be some sort of list that we have to provide, and all these reports were provided that we're required to give. There's got to be some sort of project scope and project list of what is all included. That's
Yeah.
all I'm asking for.
you know what, I will ask the engineer, I'll go through my emails, give me some time. There are quarterly reports that have to be submitted, and they've been submitted. Otherwise, we would still not have this money. Just like with any grant. It's just like with any grant. You have reporting requirements, and they have been completed.
And that's fine. All I'm asking for, Karen, all I'm asking for is a project scope to see what the whole entire project is. We don't have that.
Kathy, again, this has been going on for 5 years.
Anyone else having a discussion?
No.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Trustee Kami.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Killian.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'm looking for a motion to approve Public Safety Direct to install safety lighting on the newly purchased F-150 for the building department not to exceed $1,471.90.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yes, I have a couple questions. Initially, when we discussed this, I thought it was just to get the village crest on and building department under that. In here, it's saying that it's for safety lights, but on the public safety direct description, these are actually emergency warning lights we're installing. Also with a light stick, roughly an extra $1,300. I don't recall ever having a building department vehicle with emergency lights on it. What is the purpose for spending the extra money?
Let me just answer part of your question. I know that when we had brought this up for discussion, Superintendent Whiter did recommend that we did put some lights on there. He used some term for the lights. It was some kind of orange bar or orange lights of some sort.
Right,
So I
that's
know
the
that
light
we
stick in
did,
the
I
rear
know that we did
glass.
discuss this. So I will let Superintendent Weiner explain the different lights that are listed here, because I'm not familiar with these.
So you have to put a light bar in the rear window, and one short one up by the front window to the right passenger side front window. And then instead of using the emergency flashes all the time, they're called wigwags, so you can see them, little white strobe lights. So every time it pulls off to the side of the road, you can turn those on so you can see them from all directions. So just a matter of safety lights, and having public safety direct do this was cheaper than having it ordered from the dealer.
For the safety of the employee, with all of the incidents lately with police officers and road workers getting hit in construction zones and on the street, it was intended to provide safety for our employee.
They're not the same lights like police lights, like the Force has on their vehicles. You turn on the flashers, which is not the emergency flashers. You can see from the front or back, from the side. And
Well, it states amber emergency lights. That's
Well,
not
amber-
safety lights, those
the
are
amber's
emergency lights. So we're in turn, basically turning this into similar to a police vehicle or a fire vehicle, and
There'll be amber flashing lights like a construction vehicle. That would be like a survey company that parks on the side of the road to do surveys. Our
okay,
employees
I
would be.
just thought for an extra $1,200, it didn't seem necessary that we have that many lights for what we're using it for.
Well, and keep in mind, on the weekends, when the building department is not using this vehicle, if Public Works or police or whoever, fire department need to use the vehicle, it will be available to them as well.
EMA. Emergency Management Agency.
Right, them too.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kami.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Killian.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Looking for a motion to approve the committee meeting minutes for March 20th, 2019.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Just want to point out on page 3 under Building Department, it lists the superintendent reporting the following. I believe it should be Trustee Kavanagh.
Which section, Trustee Gillis?
She wasn't here.
So shows are here under the attendance.
Oh,
Yeah, I was here that day. I talked to Alan about this one already, and I thought that it got
so what's the
You were
change?
here.
You were here. What should I say?
Well, if
It
she
says
was here, it should
superintendent
say
reported.
superintendent reported when it should say trustee Cavaney reported.
She was
Yeah,
present,
she,
right?
Yeah.
Maria fixed it.
It's been changed.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
All right, well.
Anything else? Roll call.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee King.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Iden.
Aye.
Trustee Killen.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the April 2019 Treasury Report.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Who pulled that one off?
I pulled off number 9.
Jerry told me 3, 4, and 8. It was a trifecta.
9.
9 was building,
Oh, 9 was building.
and 8 is the treasurer's report. Did anybody have any questions
Yes.
about the treasurer's report?
I do have a question about treasurer's report. Basically, it's a question about the ambulance revenue for the month of April, and the fire department report, it shows an amount of $43,402.45, but on the treasurer's report, it shows an amount of $43,299. And that actually brings the total, which it's different too, and the police or fire department monthly report is $335,503.20, but on the report, it's $399,678. So I'm not sure which one is wrong, but we have wrong numbers for April and wrong numbers for the total on one of the reports.
So I would be more than happy, we take ours right off of our general ledger, and I don't know, perhaps they received something and somehow it didn't get coded correctly. When it came, but I'm glad to check that.
Okay.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Iden.
Aye.
Trustee King.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killen.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Last but not least, I'm looking for a motion to approve the April 2019 Building Department Report.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
It's not there.
Then you are right to remove it.
I do believe that.
It was sent by Maria.
Yes, Maria sent
yesterday.
it.
Sent it to everybody?
Yesterday, I think, or
Okay.
Monday.
Yeah.
Okay,
It did get sent in an email.
fine, then I'll.
Yeah, for the board's information, once the agenda is actually posted, we cannot unpost it and add a different attachment to it, so that's why Maria sent it
Okay.
over email, so you had it.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Iden.
Aye.
Trustee King.
Aye.
Trustee Gillis.
Aye.
Trustee Killen.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Move on to trustee business, trustee Kreis.
Under my business I just wanted to formally inform the board, I did get formal notification, I had mentioned this at the committee meeting, that Keep Midlothian Beautiful has been awarded a $5,000 grant to support implementation of a 2019 cigarette litter prevention program, and this is from Keep America Beautiful. It's our first grant. It will allow us to purchase materials, the tall ashtrays that Superintendent Sperry purchased for the Metro lot, that type of container. The grant is very specific. We'll have to execute a grant agreement, but I wanted the board to know about this, and I think the only way this grant can be successful is if we do get the executive director on board, because it's just, there's a lot of work. We've got to put a program into place. But I think it's a good start that actually Keep America Beautiful has recognized what we're trying to do here, and they did award us this grant. And that's just for information. And that's all I have.
Thank you. We're also telling everyone to quit smoking. We think that's the best option, correct? Quick vote, no?
Okay.
But if you do, we want you to
We
be
want you to
responsible,
responsible.
dispose of them. We're working, don't we, our Keep Midlothian Beautiful team out there, and we're...
A responsible cigarette smoker. Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Ivan.
I just have one minor thing to report to the board. We sent out the village stickers 2 weeks ago, and they were held up in the distribution center. So part of Midlothian has gotten the mailings, and some of the town has not gotten it. So the postmaster is looking into the situation to find out where the hell they went. So hopefully that'll be rectified and mailed as quickly as possible.
Has the postmaster explained why our mail here is no longer being processed out of this post office? Why it has to go all the way to, where'd you say, to Bedford Park?
I was not made aware of the situation on why they're doing that.
Postal
That's what they said.
regulations.
That's what the postmaster said.
Postal regulations, we used to be able to, each post office would be able to handle it themselves, but basically everything goes to Bedford Park.
They're screwing up our mail.
Well, they're looking into it. We've launched an investigation through the post office to find out where the heck they went.
Thank you, sir. That's it?
That's it for me.
Trustee Gillis.
I just want to point out in the fire department's monthly report for April that they responded to 134 emergency medical calls. Out of those, there was only 14 that were non-residents. They did respond to 76 other non-medical emergencies, which gave them a total of 774 hours of emergency response for the month. They also had 221 hours of training during the month, which roughly gave them approximately 1,055 hours of response during the month. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Let the record reflect that Gene Bartecki is...
And she's also with Keep Midlothian Beautiful.
Trustee Cabney.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing on my agenda is for the approval of the non-union benefits policy. However, there's, oops. I believe it requires one more slight revision. Attorney Valadez and I exchanged emails on Monday, and this is with regards to the last paragraph of it's the retiree insurance.
The last
Can you
sentence?
find it?
Is the last sentence you're referring to?
I think so.
E? It's not, is it E?
If it involved our exchange.
Oh, wait,
that'd be
sorry.
Number 4, last sentence.
Number 4.
The very last sentence of the policy. To include the Illinois Insurance Code.
That's what I'm looking for. Oh, here it is. Okay. Yes, so that last sentence should read, provided for under the applicable provisions of the Illinois Insurance Code and COBRA laws as provided. Oh, it isn't.
It does.
It isn't it?
Provided for under the applicable provisions of the Illinois Insurance
It
Code.
says that.
Okay, my apologies, I didn't see that in there before. Okay, so, Don had called me on Monday, he had a question and a concern with regards to one of the paragraphs.
I got a couple of questions,
Okay.
unfortunately. One would be the plans the village offers vision insurance too.
What about the vision insurance?
It's not on there.
It's not listed under one of the plans.
I believe the reason it's not there is because the village does not pay any part of the premium. The
Still-
plan's listed, but there is reference to the vision insurance.
There is, but we still offer it. It's a group vision plan, so I
Okay,
think it should
and
be
where
there.
is it?
It's on page...
Right above it. the plans. The village offers.
Page 2 of the
There, it's right there.
So the other thing is, well, a couple other things, but for retiree insurance right now, we offer, we pay 80% of the dental. And I think you have that the retirees pay 100% of the dental.
Actually, Kathy, I sent you an email about that as well, because I think the language in here is not correct on the retiring. Those who retire that were hired before,
Okay, I don't remember seeing your email. Do you know when you sent it, so I can find it?
today,
You sent it today?
yeah.
Okay, with all due respect,
I
you
know,
guys,
I know.
how long have we been working on this?
I know.
How many times have we come to the table to vote on this, and you guys throw last-minute changes because nobody comes prepared?
Would we like to push this off till next meeting?
Why don't we just push it off until the next decade? How about that?
Well, because we can't.
Well, I agree with you, Jerry, but nobody's coming prepared. Nobody bothers to give me their revisions in enough time to get it in the document so that we can get it on an agenda so we can vote on it.
We could try to push it through tonight, but
I would prefer not to, because if there's a Scrivener's error, then it just has to get re-voted on again. I cannot express enough to my fellow board members how distressing and how irritated and aggravating this is. I do my best always to come prepared to a board meeting when we're ready to discuss and vote on something, and I would expect the same out of my fellow trustees.
there's 2 weeks between now and the next meeting. There's plenty of time to get the information that everyone wants. Trustee
And I would
Kathy.
appreciate that information by next week so that I have plenty of time to get the revisions done well enough in advance so that you're not getting this on Monday and only have 48 hours to review it. Because I would prefer to get it out to you guys on Thursday or Friday. Next item is the ordinance 2028. This document is not ready for approval. There are still some revisions that need to be made, and I know that there were some questions. My main first question on this document is, let me scroll through here and find it. Okay, well, I can't find it on there. Okay. It's under, it would be on page 4, it's under annual registration. My understanding from our last discussion was that we had agreed to do semi-annual registrations instead of annual registrations, and I don't know that we had yet agreed to a dollar amount. I know that $400 was thrown out, $200 each registration, and some of us thought that might be a little bit much. So I would like to bring that up for discussion to find out what everyone's.
Just to clarify, I reviewed several of the municipalities that ProChamps provided as other municipalities who have adopted the ordinances to get a view as to what they were doing. Ours is modeled after Hanover Park. Something to consider for the board is that ProChamps is an administrative receptacle of information. However, enforcement is going to come down to the village. And so I think the reason that Hanover Park went for, rather than semi-annual at 200 each, they went to 400 for annual, was because it relieves some of the burden from the billing department and code enforcement, from the billing department in writing citations by using the information. By doubling up that semi-annual application, that doubles the work for the village to do in collating it and citing individuals who are not in compliance. But that's completely up to the board's discretion if they want to do that. That can be changed tonight if you want.
But it also allows you to capture more properties that are only vacant for part of the year. That was discussed in the presentation.
If you do it annually or semi.
Semi-annually.
Right, we'll capture more properties if we do it semi-annually, but also, as we're all well aware of, once mortgage companies get a property in foreclosure, they're very often prone to, well, the mortgage could be sold. A lot of times, even if the mortgage is in foreclosure, it could be packaged and sold to somebody, to a different lender, but also they are very prone to changing their management companies. So by forcing them to register semi-annually, we're able to keep up with the most up-to-date information.
And that's absolutely true.
So,
I just want to raise that
no,
the building superintendent is going to have to do this twice, and it's going to be a substantial responsibility in tracking down the information that ProChamps gives him, if the numbers are correct.
well, that's the beauty of this. We don't have to track it down. ProChamps does.
No, I mean
ProChamps-
enforcing it, writing citations twice a year.
Okay.
And I think, again, it's the board's discretion to do whatever it wants to do. I just want to make sure the board understands that ProChamps just provides us the information. If someone ignores us, it's still going to require twice a year for us to go out to the site, write a letter, and enforce it.
Okay. Superintendent Weiner, what's your feeling on this? Would you prefer to do it annually or semi-annually, since you and your staff are the ones who are going to have to enforce this ordinance?
I would believe, even though it might be a little more work, I believe semi-annual would be better, simply because the state for these banks and companies, they like to change a lot, and they just start selling blocks of mortgages or houses, properties, and we end up having problems with them. Our biggest problem is chasing down people. So the semi-annual, I believe, would be better, and especially more up to date.
It's the superintendent who's going to undertake it, so we can, on its face, if there are no other issues with regard to it, just change it to semi-annual registration, and shall mean every 6 months.
I have not really been able to, I've zipped through this, but I've not been able to really get down into this, so I am not prepared to vote on this. But one other thing I wanted to bring up was the fee. So ProChamps charges $100, correct, Nick?
Yes.
So if we charge $200, they get $100, we get $100. So, I mean, we're not charging homeowners for this, we're charging the banks for this.
Well,
So-
there would be some homeowners
Yeah.
who have vacant properties
Right.
that will be paying.
Okay,
I'm in favor, like I said before, of making this a progressive fee for landlords who keep properties vacant for long periods of time. I think that's one of the things of the teeth of this, that we have buildings that are blighted in a community, that are vacant, that the landlords are not putting anything into, that are boarded up, that need to be addressed. And maybe if we start hitting them with steeper fines, I'm not talking about people who are vacant for a month or 2 months, but we've got to do something to relieve some of the residents who are experiencing properties that are ill-maintained and quite frankly dangerous in the community.
yes.
Well, if trustee Cavaney's not prepared to vote on this, then why do we table it till
Well, I
next
just would
committee
like
meeting?
that addressed, because that's not in here, and then my last point is the pet ordinance. Is that something we're going to have to do separately? Or
I
is
don't,
that-
I don't know that I have the file here. I didn't have an ordinance for it. As I sit here right now, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't just be not an ordinance, but just a contract that we would approve for ProChamps to run contracted out our licensing for the pets.
And we don't have to do an ordinance?
As far, they didn't submit an ordinance here, and I don't know why they would have to, because it's not, the rules are going to be the same, it's just ProChamps is going to be administering and offering more services.
Well, kind of this. Okay, if you don't think we need an ordinance, that's fine.
I do have one comment, is that I looked at that contract, and it has everything to do about foreclosures and pre-foreclosures and this and that. Very little about vacants. In fact, I can't find anything in there that requires vacant properties that aren't in foreclosure to register by a certain time frame. There's virtually nothing in there about vacant. It has in the beginning about the definition, but after that, it has absolutely
Yeah,
nothing.
vacant properties is included in the definition of registrable properties.
But it doesn't have anything in there beyond that.
Right. And how does this usurp or override or conflict with, okay, this is 423 in the
does it conflict with the present vacant property?
Not the vacant property, but the,
Registration.
no, the program that the police department.
Crime-free
housing.
Thank you. I
It
thought
doesn't.
of that. Does this, I mean, because under crime-free housing, they don't address once a rental becomes vacant, that
Step
doesn't.
10 is only
Okay.
for
Okay,
building inspection.
all right.
And to also clarify, and to address Trustee Kilby's question, this provision is intended to replace the current provision under the village code with regard to registration of vacant property, in that it called for an appeal process that was not, that predated our administrative adjudication process, which meant that the village administrator was supposed to provide the appeal, and obviously everyone knows we don't have a village administrator, so that was going to have to be changed anyway.
But it doesn't have much in there about vacant property. I mean, if you're not foreclosure, that doesn't really apply to you so much, hardly at all, which I don't think was the intent of the ordinance.
Okay.
Well, it does have definitions of vacant
It has
property.
definitions, beyond that, nothing. Doesn't have a deadline for registering vacant properties, it has nothing.
I thought the definition, though, that it was a registered property included vacant properties.
Just, it has specific things, registered property, in dispute, bank, foreclosure, everything but. And then you have to register pre-foreclosure or foreclosure within 10 days? 10 days. Nothing about vacant properties that are in foreclosure, so I read it.
Right, it
Maybe I'm wrong, but
doesn't give a time
doesn't have
frame for
anything in
registering
there
a
about
vacant
that.
property. Okay, can I just poll the board and ask what they think about the fee? Because if we're gonna review this and offer our comments, if everybody wants to give me their comments, I'll be happy to put together a red line with everyone's revisions in there. So is everybody not in favor of $400 a year? Or they are in favor?
I agree with trustee Crowley about it being a progressive amount.
But that was for vacant properties. What about can we set this ordinance up so we have two different fees? One for vacant and one for foreclosed?
I would have to research that. This is a fairly new procedure. It hasn't been fully vetted with regard to legalities, in that the banks have mostly agreed to pay it, to avoid the hit of
'Cause
trying to
that's-
defend vacant properties.
That's on the foreclosure side of it. So
But-
that would cover, if the property is foreclosed on, that would cover the property whether it was still occupied or vacant. We're talking about vacant properties that are not in foreclosure, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Vacant properties, period.
Right, but the vacant property, but you gotta remember, a vacant property could be a foreclosed property, so that falls under the jurisdiction of the bank paying. I think, to Don's point, he's talking about, you're talking about a vacant property that someone just owns and they're just letting it sit vacant and decaying and they're not doing anything with it, but it's not in foreclosure. So that's the
I guess
distinction.
For me, foreclosure versus foreclosed means bank is trying to seek it versus bank owns it now. And to me, anything that's vacant, that sits vacant for substantial periods of time with the owner, whether it be a bank or a private person, not taking care of their property and leaving it vacant is a bad situation for everyone.
I agree.
So, to me, any property that's vacant, it's just my opinion, for a substantial amount of time, it should be a progressive.
What's a substantial amount of time?
You know what, and I just thought of something. When we do this, we should probably put in an exemption for the properties that are owned by the South Suburban Land Bank and Development Authority.
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Well,
Only because they're a government agency. They really, and we've been in budget meetings, and they are struggling. They're not getting any more Attorney General grant funding, and they're taking the worst of the worst, trying to work to get them redeveloped, and I think this would penalize them. They're working with the communities to try to get these, they're taking a big risk as they take some of these properties, and they're working to try to get developers in them. So that would just be, from my perspective, I think that would be a negative if we had the land bank paying for those.
well, I'll tell you what, I would be I'm not entirely in favor of that right now, only for the fact that we're struggling to get any updates or information from the South Suburban Land Bank. Every time I ask you guys for an update on something, I'm being told, well, they're really, really busy, and they're short-staffed, and they don't have time, and sometimes they don't call us back for 3 weeks.
There is the option to waive the fee for the land bank. You would still be subject to registration, but
To waive the
Yes,
fee?
yeah.
but it would not be subject to the fee.
All right, let's try to get all these ideas to trustee Cavaney so she can get it ready for discussion at our committee meeting in June, please. There's two that don't want the $200, they want progressive, I don't know, it's still a lot to work out. We're still not, I don't feel close. All right. Next.
Next item is with regards to the energy code. Okay, the energy code will not be adopted by the state until June 1st. After the state adopts it, then the village can adopt it. So this is just an update. Superintendent Weinert's been contacting them like every other week to find out what the status is. Should have been adopted a long time ago, but it looks like it will not be done until June 1st. Did you have an update on the plumbing code also?
No, I haven't heard back from, we filed, I think,
A while ago.
I sent you an email on that, the dates, and then I contacted them. They told us they had to wait for their attorney
Right.
for some provision we had in it. And then a month later, sent them another email asking what the status is. This is probably 2 weeks ago. And they haven't contacted me again.
Okay.
So still waiting to hear from Department of Public Health regarding the plumbing code.
Right, so the village has done its part as far as drafting and approving the Illinois Energy Code and the plumbing code. We're just kind of waiting on the state. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. Last item on my list, again, is a discussion with regards to the Cook County Land Bank and the South Suburban Land Bank with regards to property maintenance. Trustee Killily sent me an email a couple days ago that a resident was making a comment on Facebook about a property next door to her that was vacant, that was in, that had property maintenance issues and, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. So I forwarded that information to Superintendent Weinert. He had Karina go out and take a look at it. She found out that the owner of this property is the Cook County Land Bank. And the grass is 8 inches tall, and the place looks a wreck. So she investigated, she contacted them, she wrote them a citation. So, I don't know if they have contacted her back or what the status is.
You guys cut it? It's cut. We cut the grass today.
Oh, it was,
Yeah.
okay, well, she said it was on the list.
Quick
so-
response.
Okay, so at any rate, they're still gonna get a citation, okay? So then I contacted Don to let him know, he and I had discussion about it, and I told him that this was owned by the Cook County Land Bank, and I was kind of surprised, because I guess I just didn't realize that they were buying residential property. I thought they were mostly buying commercial property, and I thought that the Cook County Land Bank was doing most of their work in the city, and it was the South Suburban Land Bank that was handling the suburbs. And Don said, no, that's not true, they can go after any property they want. To my response was, well then, essentially, Cook County Land Bank and South Suburban Land Bank are kind of competing with each other. Because if they've got different people and, if they've got municipalities coming to them saying, hey, we've got this property here or there, would you guys come take a look at it? I had no idea Cook County Land Bank bought that property. So then we started talking about the South Suburban Land Bank, and much to my shock and dismay, Trustee Killily told me that the South Suburban Land Bank acquired a residential property in the neighborhood 6 months ago. So I thought that after we had long, lengthy discussion about the South Suburban Land Bank's processing of the Kedzie Avenue property, that we were all on the same page, that either Trustee Killily or Trustee Kreis would update the board when different things were going on with the South Suburban Land Bank. And to best of my recollection, I don't remember ever receiving any update from anybody that the South Suburban Land Bank acquired this residential property on Millard. And it very clearly says, again, in the agreement between the village and the South Suburban Land Bank, that the Exhibit A that's attached is supposed to be updated. whenever a property is required. So I would like to know why why now we're just finding out about this, and why the documents haven't been updated as they're required to be.
There was an oversight.
Okay. Well, don't you go to land bank meetings every month? Isn't there a land bank meeting every month?
We didn't find that out, we found that out by email. But basically, the director, Russ Wrighton, asked for our approval before he buys a property. In that case, he wanted to buy the property, but it did have problems with, it didn't meet all the, something wrong with the survey, was that right? Something didn't match up that he was going to have to spend some money on
You know what,
to
it
rectify.
doesn't matter what the problem was with the survey. If you both knew that the land bank was looking at this property to buy the property, why was there no heads up given to the board? Because now what's going to happen, now what happens is, just like what happened with this property on Golf Court, it's owned by the Cook County Land Bank and the village has no idea. We have no idea, so we don't know to put it on a watch list.
We don't get notified by the Cook County Land Bank.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the South Suburban Land Bank. You do get notified by the South Suburban Land Bank, and as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason why one of you can't notify everybody else, particularly the mayor.
Is there an address on this? Do you know that?
14613.
14613?
Because if the South Suburban Land Bank owns this property, it might be listed for sale, but as you mentioned before, they're short-staffed, they're drawn tight, they're not paying attention to penny pinchers. The weeds out in front of penny pinchers are 10 inches high.
They are. They have a real estate agent that works for them that lists the properties.
And
So
have they
penny-
given you an update as to what's going on, who they're marketing it to? Have they had any showings, anything going on?
No.
Okay, well, again, they're not paying attention. Their property management company, or whoever's managing the properties for them, is not paying attention to it because it's loaded with weeds in the front.
And penny pinchers.
Yes, I
Which
just
I
drove
will-
past it today.
Which I will notify them, and you, and by all means, if you feel you go through the protocol, exactly. There shouldn't be any reason that there should be weeds on any of their properties.
Right, but the neighbors of this Millard property now, if they're gonna to have the same lack of oversight on the residential properties that they have on the commercial properties, then those neighbors on Millard are gonna be faced with the same issue that the other neighbors on Golf Court are faced with. So if we had a heads up and we could put it on we can make note of that property, then the building department staff could keep tabs on it so that we can notify the South Suburban Land Bank that something needs to be done. But this lack of communication has got to stop. It's not fair.
The land bank hasn't picked up any recent properties. Everything that we've had, they've had for,
Not this Millard property.
We didn't notify the mayor and the board that they bought this property. And we should have.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. So Superintendent Sperry, do you want to talk about what you're doing with Oliveri Architects, or?
I'm going to reach out to the gentleman that was here today on the presentation, and he didn't get back to me for a few days, and so I reached out to him again, and he said he's really busy, and he'll get back to me when he gets a chance. So
And basically your intent is
to get a quote to see what it would cost to do a thorough investigation of the building and to spec it out so that it's a quotes out of what it would take to repair that.
Is it repairable or should?
Well, that's what he's going to tell by doing a more in-depth investigation. He was here to walk through and recognize a lot of things, but for me to get somebody to quote
Right.
repairs, I need to know what repairs need to be done. So that's where we're at.
wasn't there, a draft report that we could get, that we didn't get, that Oliveri prepared? Sandy, were you aware of that?
I don't know anything about Oliveri.
Yes, he said that could give you a draft report. But bottom line is, he wants to get paid.
Walkthrough report, yeah.
He wants to get paid to do the more in-depth
Just like the
study
other architect did.
to give us the dollar amounts, not just above work, but through the whole, that's what phase one, talking about phase one and phase two, that's That's what he does. So that's up to the board if they want to have him do the whole complex or start with Public Works, I don't know.
Now, what's wrong with doing the whole complex? That's what the board's been asking for, basically.
I have a concern with that. I mean, we've said very clearly what we wanted. We wanted an idea of what it would cost to get this building into shape. Not to spend a lot of money to find out a plan on moving forward, because I think that's something that we all have to do at RFQ, and we're not gonna spend, $20,000, $30,000 today, and then next year go out for an RFQ and have architects come in and give us the same thing. To me, that's insanity.
But
So,
he'll give us what we're asking for.
from what I heard, Mayor, no disrespect, but from what I heard, he wasn't saying that. He was saying his quote was, he was gonna give us a plan on what we could do to move forward, not what it would cost to
Repair and
fix what we
fix.
have.
That was in this phase 1 or phase 2? That would include that?
Phase 1 was, according to what I read, on the plan that he proposed, phase 1 was giving us a plan on how to, expand where we need to prioritize things like that, not necessarily telling us where we are with this building, which to me is different, and which is what the problem I've had with everybody I've talked to. I didn't get the impression that he was going to say, it'll be $100,000 to do the electric, $50,000 to do this, $90,000 to do this. You guys make a determination whether you want a new building or whether you want this building. I got the impression he wanted to do a plan on moving forward, what you could, how you could fix this issue, how you could address that issue, come up with specs and things like that. That's the impression that I got.
Give everybody packet after his presentation, so what he wanted to do, none of it was assessing any of the.
Right, none of it was assessing
interviewing employees and coming up with a plan of what the prioritization was for which building needs first.
Well, not even that, just what,
What did it cost?
and again, I think it's all, up to individuals, but we've had, 5 quotes that I'm aware of, 4 quotes for the roof, ranging from anywhere from patching to $700,000. I mean, subjective, that's what I'm looking for. It's all subjective. I mean, it depends on who you're gonna hire to do what.
And let's remember that we're not any further along now than we were a year ago.
Nope.
A year ago in May, Don made the suggestion, well, maybe we should hire somebody to do an assessment on this complex. And Sandy worked her butt off to try to find an architect to come in and do it at a reasonable price. First architect she found wanted to charge us $40,000, and we all had sticker shock. So then we hired another architect that was only going to charge us, what, $20,000 or $22,000?
7 or 8, I think.
Okay, and he came through, and he did his walkthrough, and then he never fulfilled his, under our agreement, he never fulfilled his requirements under the agreement to give us the report we needed. So here we are a year later, and the building's not getting any better. It's just as dangerous, probably more dangerous today than it was last year. So we can't dilly-dally on this anymore. We've got to move forward on this.
Well, if we ask Oliveri to do what we want, would he do it?
Of course, he's not going to do it for free, so.
We're not
everybody has
expecting him to do it for free.
The big
We have
thing
to
is
spend
maybe
some
we
money
should
to
have
get
paid
it done.
$40,000 so the first guy, it would have been done, and we would have been fine. We can't
Well,
do this on the
shoulda,
cheap.
coulda, woulda.
We have to
need
get
move
this
fast
done.
and get it done.
Yeah, we have to get it done. And if Oliveri wants X amount of dollars, Superintendent Weiner thinks he's a good guy from what
What's the
I...
dollar amount we have to go out to bid at? Well, then we can't do it without going out to bid.
It's at 40. It's
20,000.
It's $20,000 to board.
So,
Time out. I thought for professional
20,000
services,
for-
I thought for professional services, like for engineering or architects, we didn't have to go out to bid.
No, we don't. But it has to
Okay,
get board approved.
Right.
Right, the board can approve it, but we don't have to go out to bid.
But you're suggesting an RFQ then?
No, that's,
Okay, so the fastest way to do this would be to talk to Oliveri, say, this is exactly what we want. Can you do it? If he can do it, give us a price. Rather than fooling around with it, get
how
it
old
done.
how old is your building, Joe?
Joe, how long would it take you to go out for an RFQ?
For what?
To move your building and put it somewhere else?
Never done it before, so I don't know how long it would take.
Because, I mean, to me, I don't want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get a report that's going to tell us
tear this down
to
and
tear
rebuild
this
it.
down and do something else. I mean, I just don't want that. You guys can vote the way you want, but that's not my opinion.
It's the only way you're doing it.
What? Then you have your own, sir, and I have mine.
How else are we gonna find out?
How else are you gonna find out what we gotta do?
But he, what do you mean, how else are we gonna find out?
How else are you gonna find out if it costs $400,000 or $100,000 to fix that wall? Then the board's gonna sit there and say, well, maybe we should get a quote for another building. If it's $100,000, they may
The
say,
man
go.
sat here last week and said, this building has
Exceeded
exceeded
its
its life.
useful life.
Yeah, its useful life.
Which building?
That's the,
Public Works?
well, this building complex, I'm assuming he was talking.
Well, he's talking about
I
it.
mean,
I mean, is the Public Works building over 30 years old?
He-
Is it over 40 years old? Is it over 50 years old? Okay, it's over 50 years old, okay? That's what I was, that's
I've
where I
asked
was.
around, go by the boiler's from the 50s. I think.
Okay, it's 50 years old.
Sure it is.
It's got a wall that's ready to collapse. Now, we need to shit or get off the pot.
But it's
Excuse
more
my
than-
French,
it's
because
more
this
than
is
just a wall.
ridiculous.
It's the whole bathroom facilities. We want to be a more diverse departments, and there's that disgusting trough that you have to go in there in the bathroom. I mean, I just don't, I mean, it's the police department, the fire department. We are not ready for the 21st century, not even
We're
close.
not ready for the 18th.
But if the police department wasn't here, we would have more room to do some of the things we need to do.
So,
Well,
my
you know
concern
what,
is more than the ball.
I think
It's the
that's a
whole
given.
facility.
I'm sure that's a given, and the bottom line is that he's not looking at that. When Oliveri, when Oliveri looked at it, he didn't think that we
That
were
would be great.
going
Thank you,
to move the police department. If he knew that we were moving the police department, he might be able to say, okay, we can reconfigure the village hall. But, the voters, the bottom line is, the voters are going to ask about this, and if we don't have, and if we don't have a cost estimate for every little thing,
Absolutely, we should have a cost, I'm not saying we shouldn't have a cost estimate, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying we shouldn't do our due diligence, but I think we should have been doing our due diligence for the last 40 years and maintaining the properties that we have, and not letting them get to the point that they are in disrepair, not letting us have metal screwed to the ceiling so water's not coming down, not having built bricks fall off the wall in
The fire
the fire department, not having the police department having safety issues with prisoners being able to run amok, not having public works with the wall. All those things have been not going on for 2 years, sir. They've been going on for a very long time. And I think the voters would be annoyed to know that we collectively have all allowed that to happen. Because we haven't taken care of these properties and we haven't had a plan going forward on how we take care of these things. And that's very frustrating to me as a trustee.
So you're gonna get a price, and you're gonna make the report first now.
Well, I was asking
Yeah,
what's
no,
the
it's
cost of
fine.
a building site.
I've been yelled at a lot today.
That's what I was
No, I didn't.
tell me what needs to be done.
No.
Okay,
And we get a price or a chart, and it's all of that. Then when I get that,
perfect,
I go out to quote.
good deal, make it happen.
It's gonna make sure he comes back to me. I don't know where he lives.
Trustee Kelly, anything else?
Yes, I have something sad to report that one of our longtime volunteers passed away on May 7th, Deb Dorner, who was a volunteer for different committees, and more recently, she served for 3 or 4 years on the Safety Committee. She was a very valuable volunteer, super good on the committee, and more than that, a great lady. We're very sad to see her go, and we have our thoughts and prayers for the family. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Crowley.
Just a couple things tonight, sir. Thank you. I had sent an email late today to the board. Sorry for the late notice, but it's just something that I wanted to discuss tonight. I'll be asking to move forward if no one has any problems with it next week. We've been looking and putting together the parade for this year's Independence Day parade. And I was wondering if anybody would have a problem with setting a budget of $500 to get some things that we need for the parade, like some signs, some banners, things like that.
Seems reasonable.
Okay, if nobody has a problem with that, I could put it on for discussion and approval next week because I didn't meet the time.
2 weeks. We're off next week.
We're off next Wednesday.
What was that?
That's one week.
Wednesday.
You want to be here?
Oh,
You can come.
You're so good to me, trustee.
I mean, I've done it before.
2 weeks. I think I have 2 months. So 2 weeks. Second, I wanted to just give a couple updates. We posted on Facebook. I have sent it to the local churches, and I've sent it to the messenger regarding our tax seminar on June 10th. If anybody's interested, we will have some guest speakers. We will have our treasurer there to go over our property taxes and what the new rules for appeal are. People can email me, call me, text me to reserve a seat. Anybody's welcome. We're just asking for people to kind of reserve a seat so that we have an idea of how many people, so we can have seating set up.
Sorry, when was that, June what?
June 10th at 7 p.m. here at Village Hall.
Sorry, got it.
The water seminar is 10 days later. I haven't done a flyer. Is anybody, does somebody want to put a flyer together for that? I mean, what do we want to do? How do we want to handle it?
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about
What's going to happen at the seminar first, and then we can create a flyer.
Well, didn't you outline it in the newsletter? Isn't it kind of outlined
Theoretically,
in
we
the
were supposed to
newsletter?
have someone speak on water-saving devices, and since we don't have that person, it's sort of
Well,
like...
we've got a month.
Yes, we have a month, and I don't know if we can get anybody. So let me work on trying to talk to, I was looking to recruit local, I already vetted that with girls, and girls didn't want to do it. They didn't have anybody that they thought was good for that. And I was going to talk to, see if we could find a Midlothian plumber that might like to talk about that. And failing that, try to find some plumber that might like to talk about that. So we have to work on that quickly and then set out a flyer.
And then we're going to discuss how people are billed and all of that, stuff like that, right?
Absolutely.
And we were going to talk about the sewer charge and all of those charges that are included in the water bill that people always seem to have questions about. Right? Okay. Next, it appears, I haven't seen it yet, but I was told that the ad for the micro pantry was poured today. Superintendent Sperry?
What's that?
He's watching a meeting.
I don't even know what I said now. Wait, look. Micro pantry.
Yeah.
The ad was poured today,
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
Did I send you a picture? Yeah.
No.
I emailed it.
I mean, maybe you did today?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't.
As soon as I got done finishing it, I emailed it.
Oh, you know what, I haven't looked in a couple hours, so I might not be back. So our micro pantry will be installed, will be delivered on May 30th. And I just want to remind everybody, on June 3rd at 7:15 here at Village Hall, we will have the the ceremony for the micro pantry. So everybody's invited, we'd love to see it. June 3rd at 7:15. Next, I have, tributary seed, Joe.
Yes.
Last week we talked about trib seed, and you were going to try and get some more information for us to share about the number of houses that are affected and all of that. You're working on that, you'll get it to us when we have it? Okay. Chief Delaney forwarded me some legislation today that is in the Senate right now that may affect our crime-free housing laws. I will be forwarding that to the board after this meeting. I would like everybody to take a look at it, and if you have any concerns regarding this, you might want to reach out to your senators and address it, but it does look like this legislation would definitely have an impact on us being able to have a crime-free housing program.
A negative impact?
Yes.
A devastating impact.
Yeah, it would eliminate
What is being discussed right now essentially creates a protected class of juveniles who have committed crimes, much like women, seniors, gay people, minorities. It literally is creating a protected class for landlords in discriminating against people with criminal records.
That commit criminal offenses. So,
However, one clarification would be that as it applies to arrests and expunged matters, with regard to convictions that are not expunged, they could still take that into consideration.
I think it's kind of, I think it leaves a lot for loosely interpret things. I don't know, I read it a couple times today. I'm going to read it again, but I'll forward it to everybody, so everybody has it. But if this law passes, it would definitely devastate our primary housing program. And that is all I have, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to department heads. Deputy Chief McClellan. Chief Delaney.
As a reminder, we have our child seat, car seat inspection today, Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have one car seat that will give away to anybody in need. But if you're just not sure if your car seat is safe or want us to check it out, we have certified people on hand that can install it or just make sure it is proper. Cop on Top, we raised $4,000 that day. Thank everybody that came out.
Nice.
Question about the torch run. That's Sergeant Tebow. They haven't picked a date yet. He said they're still trying to figure out the route, so as soon as they determine the route, they'll pick a date. I'll let you guys know on that one. And then June 8th will be our Child ID program from 10 to 2. I'll give a reminder when I get closer to that one.
And can I, if you'd like, Helen could stand up. He's sporting our, the T-shirt tonight that's available for purchase. It's a really nice T-shirt.
You need to come down the runway, Helen. Come on. In front of the camera, right.
I have a feeling Sergeant Tebow would be willing to do autographed T-shirts, for a driver of the for the 502, if anybody's interested. So please stop by the police department and pick up a T-shirt or a hat, a chance to win a Harley, a UTV. Sorry, I stole some of your thunder.
When's the child ID? Next Saturday?
Child ID is June 8th.
Is that all?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Superintendent Weiner.
I know if the weather's been playing hell with property maintenance. I know trustees, you get calls regarding grass, weeds, general overall maintenance, but because of the rain and they have crews behind. Also landscapers, or people that we use to cut lawns, they're behind. So just please take your name and number and tell them we're working at it. And we're addressing the issues as they come up.
Can you explain what happens when someone makes a report so that people know what happens and what we have to do and why it's not cut the next day?
What happens is, per ordinance, if we find a property when somebody complains, per ordinance, first of all, it has to be 8 inches or taller. We are required to leave a door hanger with a service notice. We usually give them a few days. We always try to make it over a weekend because people work. If the lawn's not cut, property's not maintained, it was just talk about lawn cutting. Lawn's not cut, then what happens is we write a citation and we forward the address, if the property's vacant, to Roy's Landscaping, who then takes pictures before and after and cuts the lawn so we can invoice the property owner. And this is where the vacant property registration comes in. If the property's occupied, we can't go on private property to cut the lawn. So what happens is they serve notice, they'll then get a citation, and then they need to cut it. If they don't, then we can render a citation. Often what happens is the citation will usually be tossed the first time for non-student for pre-hearing compliance. And then if it happens again, when we have a hearing, we say that you've already been cited before. Pre-hearing compliance the second time around doesn't take effect because they've already been warned and gone through the process once.
So if someone's living in the house, there's nothing we can do to cut the grass, we can't go on and cut it. No, you can't have it documented.
You can't create the unsanitary by doing it.
If it's a vacant.
What was that, Rita?
If it's vacant, if the property's vacant.
Oh, it's a vacant lot.
Vacant lot, then we go on it. We go on site where we can find is the last property owner, and then we put it on the cut list to be cut.
Because 147 on our main drag, once again, that
Next to
vacant lot.
KFC? That's.
No, 147.
Oh, that one too.
Next to
There's
Mr.
some
Sup.
gas.
Right.
Next to Mr. Sup, the big giant lot.
Southern Dallas, Chris.
We know. You know,
Superintendent Weiner, has that property owner on 147th been cited?
yes, the problem is that the records show that there is no owner of that property.
That there's no what?
No owner of the property. It's just Cook County vacant lot. Maliki's the last owner of that property. He's talking about one of the lots, but he hasn't been involved in it for like the last, I forget how many years now. He says he has no interest in it, he just like left it.
Is the property tax being paid by someone?
Not that we could find out, no. Just a vacant Cook County lot, just like we see vacant houses.
Can
We have
the
houses
village
people
pick it up?
want.
Can the village buy it?
Maybe, but.
If Mr. Maliki walked away?
Well, if there's back taxes, the village could go through the no cash bid process, but, or we could ask the land bank to do it. That would probably be quicker, faster, cheaper.
The question we have on that property is, it's been vacant for years. So I've asked some people who've been in the village a long time, was there ever a gas station on there?
Nursing home, nursing home.
Or what, or was there ever tanks under there, cleaners? Is that why it's still vacant all these years and nobody's been about it?
There actually was a phase one done on that property when we had the EPA grant years ago. And part of the problem with that property is when Mr. Maliki, Superintendent Sperry, you know this, built the home
Behind Mr. Sub on Costa.
yes, cut off the water supply to that property for development. Correct?
Correct.
Water and sewer comes from
You would have
Costner.
to directionally bore under.
Water and sewer comes from Costner, and they build homes on Costner, so you can't get access to the water and sewer.
He'd have to go under 147th Street.
For whatever the reason is, why nobody's ever bought it, if you want the land bank to look into it, but right now, there's properties that are just no current owner. Somebody walked away from it 10 years ago, taxes are owed on it.
If it's in fact a situation which happens frequently in which an owner, lawful owner of record, has decided that the property is not worth the taxes and walks away, there is still the option for the village to confirm that by requesting that they sign over any interest to the property to the village. But of course, the village would have to make a determination that it's in the village interest, and the cost, to bear the cost of getting the taxes in through the no cash bid process. They get all of this issues with the property gone. But simply walking away does not relieve the owner of responsibility if they still in fact own it.
But if we can't get the taxes from them, then it's unlikely we'll get a citation fee from them.
Correct. And that's the quandary.
So we write it to the last known owner, and then we go on the property and we cut it.
So when can we go on that property and cut it?
As soon as it's dry. The longer it gets, the worse it gets. And, the board last night was to pour again tonight. When it gets long like that, they try going in there. And I understand the problem with that property is people like to dump on there. The last landscaper they used last year, he went on there and it cost him 2 lawnmowers. Because he didn't walk the property, he couldn't see what it was dumping. So it's on the list, it needs to be cut.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Superintendent Sperry.
It's the MWRD, or the CDBG road resurfacing project. Last year that didn't get finished in time. Still, not even started yet, we're just getting it rigged out. We get 2-3 days with the rain in a week, you don't want to move the streets.
They moved the grinder by me. I thought we were going to start.
I think that's what they're moving it around. But, if they know these streets and then they're supposed to rain for a couple of days, it doesn't bode well for the future resurfacing of the road. The area between, or the area where the 2 detention ponds are going to be, for the Natalie Creek project are currently being cleared by the tree contractor and the Home Tree Service. So I've seen one on Facebook post, they're in there clearing that, they're going to get their bigger machines out supposedly tomorrow, but they're good for saying they're going to be here tomorrow, and they're here in the next day or 2 days later. So that's going on. And utility relocation on Kilbourne is scheduled to begin on Tuesday, May 28th. Tilborn will be closed through traffic from 147th to 145th Street, the local access, so residents will have to enter from 145th Street because they're going to be tearing it up. That's just during the day, I believe. I think at the end of the during construction hours, I think at night they'll open it back up. So I'll keep you posted. It's all on the website. And I'm here for at least a week. That's all I have.
Engineer Nagel.
Mayor, I got 2 items. The first item is we're taking bids on June 6th for the roadway resurfacing program. The cost estimate's about $410,000, $420,000, and it's at 10 a.m. And the other item that Mr. Kelly was talking about, doing water conservation. Illinois American Water Works Association has a free water trailer. The trailer has set up where Joe's Berry can go and ask for it and get it. The layout has 5 spigots, 5 drinking fountains on there, two sinks and a dog spigot, and it has a bunch of information on how to conserve water. I don't know if it'd be a good idea to try to do this for a nighttime meeting, but for like a festival, it'd be wonderful to set this up.
Like National Night Out, maybe?
Yeah. So if just letting you know that's there, it's available and it's free. When I say free, it means that Mr. Sperry's team is going to work a lot to get it. You go up to St. Charles and get it and sign a waiver and bring it back. If paper is damaged, you bring it back again. And St. Charles is a half-day drive. It's not what it is. So, and it's available. And they even have dates when it is available. So if you have a festival, I mean, we can look into try to get that for you. And if you don't, if you want to do it the night that you're talking about the conservation, we can look in for that too, but I don't see that being as fruitful as, especially with the 5 drinking fountains in the summer. That'd be nice for any kind of summertime festival.
Joe, could you look into it for National Night Out,
Yep.
please?
And what does the water trailer have to do with water conservation?
It has pamphlets on there, how to conserve water, where treatment comes from, where water comes from. It's the importance of water. It's the American Water Works Association is the national renowned group that engineers belong to. We follow water and I'm on the outreach committee, so I know about it.
Anything else?
That's it, sir.
Treasurer Britton?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Clerk Kalaki?
I have nothing.
Attorney Valdez?
Okay, the 2 items that I have are not intended to be exhaustive discussions with regard to the details of the document. But I think it is practical, given the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, to have this discussion with regard to the developer's request at the Ricky Rockets location at 147th Street and Cicero to go through very briefly the outline of what the developer is requesting and the history of this request. The treasurer and I have met on 2 occasions, at least, and had extensive conversation with the developers and the owners of the Ricky Rockets property. The issue that has come up has been that the original redevelopment agreement between the Village of Midlothian and the Ricky Rockets developer had benchmark requirements regarding home rule occupation taxes, sales taxes, video game taxes, property tax increase over base year benchmarks. Well, our review of the data submitted to the treasurer with regard to what taxes have been generated shows that they have not been meeting their benchmarks. The point of that being that the incentive, the maximum incentive that the village intended to give to the developer was only guaranteed $500,000 through the TIF fund, which is the solid funds that they, by developing the increment that they developed, they were going to get that back. They still have another 1.5 million, I believe, at least, yes, roughly 1.5, 1.6 million that they were going to get as a result of meeting benchmarks that I just discussed with regard to home rule occupation taxes, gas taxes, video taxes. Make a long story short, they haven't been meeting that. They have come to us and requested that the remainder of their incentive be funded through their increment in the TIF. So it would come to them faster and shift the risk of the benchmarks from the developer onto the village. With that said, there is an argument to be made by the developer that they delivered the development of that corner and the whole section of 147th and Cicero Avenue, and that If they were to have come here without the benchmarks 4 years ago and said to you that that corner would look the way it does, that it would have the increment that it does, and that it would be doing the business and have the effect with the jobs and everything else, that the board probably would have said, we'll take it. The point of the benchmarks was to put all of the risk on the developer to deliver what they said they were going to deliver. And so there have been, with regards to gas sales tax, they have not met some of these incentives. The village can certainly question as to their marketing and their efforts to meet these benchmarks incentives, but that is what the developer is coming to the board for now, is to have some relief from the benchmarks and to get what was estimated to be their incentive, the $2 million in incentives that the village board, when it was an abandoned, grass-ridden, glass-strewn piece of property that had been vacant for 10, 15 years, at that time that they said to you, this is what you can have, would the village still have put those benchmarks? That's up to the village board to decide. You don't have to decide that right now. I just wanted to give a description of the current document. I know Trustee Cavey did request the current document. I didn't have it now. I emailed it to you all to make a comparison between what the language says right now and what they are asking in this new amended development agreement. Obviously, one has to look through it to see what the difference is, but I think, and the treasurer can correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that what I've just said is in a nutshell, what they are asking you for, relief from the benchmarks.
Can I just,
Well,
go ahead.
I was looking at the agreement too, and it seems that this agreement asks for a TIF-wide reimbursement versus just reimbursement on their PINs.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to do that.
Yes, that was something that we did not
What do
discuss.
you mean, what's the difference
They were
between
only getting money
TIF-wide?
back from the increment that they
They
created
produced.
by their development. They were going to get money back. They want money back from the whole TIF, whatever increment was on the whole TIF.
Well, aren't they stingy?
Like
But
Cars Inc. and
They're not entitled to
Tricon.
any money from those businesses.
Well, it wouldn't come from the business, it'd come
But
from
I
the
mean,
TIF.
from the TIF.
from the increment that they produced.
That they produced.
If they didn't produce the increment, they're not entitled to any portion
So
of it, is my
everyone
opinion.
has both documents.
Can I just just so I understand I just need a point of clarification here. So I know that their development has a Class 8. So they're already paying a reduced property tax to begin with. Okay, and that has nothing to do with the sales benchmarks that they were required to hit. So they have failed to hit those benchmarks, which means that they're not getting any of the TIF reimbursement dollars, they're not getting any TIF money out of the TIF because they didn't hit those benchmarks. So because of that now.
No.
What?
They're still getting TIF money, they're not getting the other
Yes.
reimbursements that.
What are
Half
the
a
reimbursements?
$500,000 comes from TIF that they get regardless of the benchmarks.
Okay,
But the package in the original agreement, I think, is $2 million and
so they still basically want their whole $2 million, even though they're not hitting their benchmarks?
Correct, because the guaranteed part of the development agreement was the TIF money. The benchmark money was the other money that they were hoping that they would get. And you are correct, trustee, in that with the Class 8, their increment, because they are going to get offset by the Class 8 incentive, their increment is going to be much smaller going forward because they're not going to be paying as much income.
The TIF discussion is very lively. It was very lively at last night's finance committee, and there's a lot of questions about this TIF and what we did and why we did it and why we do what we do with TIFs and going forward, and it really is very much.
And
We probably need to have a TIF
and I think that
at a finance committee.
the board should know that of the entire TIF, Ricky Rockets produces how much of the increment, Treasurer?
Shoot,
Most of it,
there was going to be a quiz.
yes. Oh, almost all, yeah,
Right.
an
but
extraordinary amount.
But the TIF is so small, you know, in PIN numbers, there's really nowhere else to go with any of the TIF money. Like, where are we going to?
We're restricted to doing anything with the TIF money.
So we're, you know,
Except
and it
putting up a
has
sign.
22. I mean, you know, my opinion is you create a TIF so you can make your business area better and you can entice businesses and you can get people to come in. Well, we can't do that if it only includes 6 pins or 8 pins that are
And
already
they've already been
developed.
Yes, and I would say this, the board should know this, that this is a quandary that happens in TIFs of this size. When you have one major developer who does all of the work and there's only small parts of it, you do have situations, and the mayor knows, we have a situation now where we may have excessive TIF funds, but nothing, no TIFable expenditures to reimburse
So the whole
for.
point of creating a TIF so that we can make our commercial area better, we can expand it, we can entice developers, and we can do all of these, kind of goes out the window.
Yes, and then the state has put extra restrictions on TIFs.
And class
And, well, county did Class A, but the state's put more restrictions on TIFs as far as sharing and other things, so.
And again, I'm not trying to persuade the board one way or the other. It's just that in our conversations, I want to accurately transmit to you the developer's request, so at least you understand what their rationale is and what they're trying to do. Clearly, this was negotiated years ago, and the benchmarks were put in there to remove the risk from the village of Midlothian on how that development develops, and put it upon the developer, which is what TIF is kind of all about. You get reimbursable expenses out of the TIF fund, and if you want additional incentives, you have benchmarks. If you give us this much sales tax revenue, we'll give you some of it back.
It was a good deal.
They failed to do that.
And they failed to do it.
Okay, everyone's got both copies.
And I just want to say, we have some other incentive agreements with other businesses, and they're structured that way too. The more they produce or sell, the more benefit they get from the village. So I think those are pretty logical things to do from the village's perspective. So this isn't the only agreement that was written this way. It really puts the onus on the developer and business owner to produce.
Okay. The second item is this should not take very long at all. The second item is the Village of Midlothian Master Pole Attachment Agreement. The board in the past, if you recall, has passed an ordinance regulating small cellular equipment on the public way within the Village of Midlothian that was forced upon us by the Illinois State Legislature, which essentially set the limits and took away the negotiating of municipalities when it comes to where small pole cellular equipments can go up. So we have now adopted the ordinance that gave us all of the possible authority that we could have under the state statute. We also have an application, again, that puts the maximum requirements for charging, for discretion, for information that is required of the cellular companies to give to us when it comes to engineering, when it comes to information on what the equipment they're going to put up there. Everything under the law through, and I won't take credit for that, a lot of the credit goes to the Illinois Municipal League, who had a team of lawyers who looked at the statute and gave municipalities as much authority as could be salvaged, given that the state of Illinois essentially gave the cellular companies one of the largest public lands monetary gift in recent memory. So this is the agreement, the contract that each cellular company will sign with the Village of Midlothian going forward in applying for sites on our public way.
And who drafted this?
This was done by the Illinois Municipal League, and I went through it also to review it. The variable is...
Does it need to be 18 pages long?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay, is this document coming to us in light of the meeting that you and I and the mayor and
Correct. We had an
Joe
ordinance.
had with AT&T?
Yes,
A
we
month
have,
ago?
we have an ordinance, and we have an application to apply for it under the ordinance. What we don't have is a contract that both parties would sign for cellular companies to erect something, and that is coming now. That's what they're doing.
Will this go to AT&T?
Yes.
With the statement to them that their lawyers are not going to carve this up and redline it and send it back? It is what it is, and if they want to come here, this is what they got to sign?
That's a great question. The Illinois Municipal League had attorneys from the cellular companies that were at the table, and they expressed what they couldn't live with, what they would fight over, and so this agreement here should be something that they're familiar with, that other municipalities are using, and AT&T and all the rest of the companies know that this is the deal. The only variable would be the insurance, sorry, that's what, I took a survey of the insurance, $2 million and $1 million liability insurance. Some municipalities had more, some had less. That was just what I, in my opinion, would be sufficient to protect the village. But certainly the board could ask for additional insurances if they want.
Okay, under the application fee, the licensee shall pay an application fee of $650 for an application to co-locate a single, it's in paragraph 3A, to co-locate a single small wireless facility. And just so everybody knows, the wireless facility they're talking about is basically an antenna box. Wireless facility on an existing utility pole or wireless support structure, and $350 for each small wireless facility addressed in a consolidated application to co-locate more than one on an existing pole. They can put more than one on a pole?
Yes, they can, but different companies cannot put.
So they have to pay us an application fee, first of all, a $650 application fee, and then $350 for each wireless facility.
If they do them all at the same time. If they do it at a subsequent time, we can charge them the $650 again.
Okay, and then paragraph B says, licensee shall pay an application fee of $1,000 for each small wireless facility addressed in an application that includes the installation of a new utility pole. So their application fee, if they want to put in a new pole, which is what AT&T is talking about, they want to put in a new pole at the corner, they would have to pay us the $1,000 application fee instead of $650, plus they have to still pay us the $350 for the actual unit itself. Correct?
Well, it would be if they have more than one. The $350 is the discount that the state gave them if they put in an application for multiple sites.
Okay, well, this language is not clear. Paragraph A and paragraph B are not clear, but everybody can read it and we'll discuss it later on.
Well, we do need to move forward with it because under the law, if we wait too long, it will be considered a denial of the application and an AT&T.
Well, first of all, did they apply?
They're waiting for this.
Why are they waiting for our contract? Why don't they apply first and then we'll give them the contract?
They could. They could.
If they haven't applied, there's no delay as far as I'm concerned.
No, I'm just saying that we can't let this part of it sit too long because we have to have the agreement ready to go.
That's fine, we can discuss it on June 5th, but if they've not applied, they've not applied yet. Do they have a copy of this document?
They're going to get it as soon as
Well, let's put it on the agenda.
As soon as you
for
authorize
June
me to
5th.
give it to them.
That'll be next meeting.
Yeah, June 5th. June, is it the 5th or the 3rd? 5th. No, a week from next week, 2 weeks from today.
That's all that I have.
Is that all you have?
That's all.
Is that all you have?
Thank you.
All right, my business. So, just point of order, I guess. So, what I'd like to see happen, and I know we've discussed before, is board meetings are for action and updates. Committee meetings are for discussion. I know that things have changed over the years because you can do action items at committee meetings. Just my 2 cents. I prefer that board meetings stick more to the regimen of action and updates and not lengthy discussions. Just out of respect for our audience. And although they seem to love the back and forth tit and tat, banter, the witty banter that we all have. So, all right, I will move on to my business. Tonight is the annual appointments. I will run through the whole list and ask for approval at the end, and as this is not my first time, I will ask that is there any trustees that, is there any position that they would like taking off the list and voted on separately? Oh, good to hear. Okay, I will go through the list, and I hope you all agree. So, under the trustees, we're pretty much keeping it the same. Trustee Cabney, we'll still have the building department. Trustee Crowley will have the police department because, you know, they're inseparable.
I will say he's getting awful warm and fuzzy down there with his comments.
Trustee Gillis will still have the fire department. Trustee Ivel will still have finance administration. Trustee Killey will still have public works, and Trustee Kreis will still have community development. I think everyone's doing a great job, and I'd hate to mess up a good thing. Department heads, Steve Hotwagner, fire chief. Daniel Delaney as police chief. Joseph Sperry as public works superintendent. Nicholas Weinert, building department superintendent. I'm not sure how many days it's been. I'm sure you still keep count, 200.
Have you lost count?
I have lost count.
Yay,
With all
he's
the
lost
excitement.
That
count.
was quick.
Yeah.
I think you lasted to like 210 or something.
I'll figure it out, though, send you an email.
Nicholas Valdez as the village attorney. Maggie Britton as the village treasurer. Tom Myatt as the health inspector, and Tom Nagel as the village engineer. In the fire department, Joseph McClellan as the deputy chief and John Kacharski as the captain. Under police department, Larry Rafferty as the deputy chief. I missed on the list. Public works, Ty Swanson as the assistant superintendent. Okay, committees. Beautification committee, and if I get anything wrong, please yell out. I think there were some corrections by Trustee Kreis. I think they got those, but here we go. Got yours, and I got someone else. Beautification committee, Patricia Schultz, Scott Schultz, Bob Peters, Barb Killey, Jean Bartecki, and Janice Ward, with Trustee Ivan as the liaison. Community Policing Committee, Frank Chehoin as the chairman, Michelle Chehoin, Sandy Cortez, Frank Pearson, with Trustee Crowley as the liaison. Community Service, Terry Stevens as the chairman, Marcia Amron, Jen Cottrell, Angelo Sub, Alan Kickert, Otis Lane, and Don Shupik and Trustee Crowley as the liaison. Fire and Police Commission, Joseph Jones, Warren Sperry, and Joe Petrizzo, Trustee Crowley as the liaison. Fire Pension Board, Steve Hotwagner and Dan Dazell. Historical Society, Lori Taylor as chairperson, Dan Hansen, Ray Carlberg, Terry Becker, Trustee Gillis as the liaison. Mid-Market Water Commission, I don't think we had to do him this year because I think it's a 6-year term.
Yes.
But I'm not removing you from the Mid-Market Water Commission. I am not removing you, so you'll stay on as the Natalie Creek Trail Steering Committee, Jerry Gillis Sr., Theda Reed, Joe Sperry, Helen Lekovich, Chris Parker, Mary Chiz, with Trustee Kreis as the liaison. Plan Commission, Louis Seja as chairman, Christine Stroko, Susan Surya, Kathy Faulkner, and Trustee Cavney as the Plan Commission, as the liaison. Police Pension Board, Dan Delaney and Ed Olmos. And Maggie Britton should be on there as well.
Maggie and Adam on the
All right, Police Pension Board, Ed Olmos and Maggie Britton. But I just had to appoint you guys. Okay, so you're staying on. Just letting you know. Rain Ready Committee, Joe Sperry, Helen Lekovich, Chris Parker, Mary Chiz, Theda Reed, with Trustee Kreis as the liaison. Safety Committee, Jean Bartecki as the chairperson, Denny Kolkebeck, Paul.
Danilowskis.
That's
But
what
we
I
do
said.
have two corrections, Mayor.
And Paul Daniels in the
Paul
correction.
Daniels should be taken out, and Sandy Cortez should be added on.
That's correct.
All needs to stay.
Paul Danilowskis?
Or Paul Daniels?
Paul Daniels, we're taking up,
Daniels
right. We're keeping him on. Paul Daniels, who doesn't really exist, we're taking him off.
So let's go through this again. Safety Committee, Jean Bartecki is the chairperson. It's Denny Kolkebeck, isn't it?
Yes.
Denny Kolkebeck. Paul.
Danilowskis.
Sandy Cortez. And Trustee Killey as the liaison. Technology Committee, Hemant Lip, Cheryl Lip, Chris Rubelt, and Trustee Ivan is the liaison. Veterans Committee, Dave Twombly, Chairman, George Doden, Don Dalton, Al Suchars, I knew this,
Sucharski.
I knew, tough names. Mike Sucharski, Virginia Davis, Jillian Jans, John Jans, Rich Krulak, Kathy Faulkner, and Debbie Jenkins. Trustee Kreis is the liaison. Almost done. Zoning Board, Jerry Gillis Senior, Chairperson, Bob Smith, Secretary, Ted Engler, Tom Wojciechowskis, is that right? Was I close? That was close.
Yes, you got it.
Karen Pringle and Noreen Statler. Trustee Cavney is the liaison. Looking for a motion to approve all these appointments tonight.
Should, let me check on Noreen.
Discussion, or is it after? I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I did not realize this when you sent this out, sir, but EMA is not on here, and we do have our EMA, and we are trying to, so I can get you that information.
And we did not, unfortunately, we didn't have the
Keep Midlothian
Beautiful either, so we're going to get that.
Well, okay, I'll get you our information. Well, something, we have room for both.
Yeah. It's always good to say it once a year.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Crowley,
Aye.
trustee Ivan,
Aye.
trustee Cavney,
Aye.
trustee Gillis,
Aye.
trustee Killelea,
Aye.
trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I met, it's never too early to talk about the census. I met with the local rep today. His official title was, hold on. Ron Houston. Anyway, met with him. Corey was his name. And we're going to do our part as a village to promote the census, 2020 census. It means a lot as far as representation. Districting in our representative districts, it means money. What are you looking at your watch now for? You get to talk for a half hour. Look at your watch. Just because we don't have a meeting next week doesn't mean we can have two meetings in one night. It's a big deal, and we need to be on board with this, and I'm going to try to put together a small, complete count committee of people. So I just want to let you know that. Let's see. Bremen High School, or actually, Bremen High School. They, Ford partnered with the local schools and law enforcement to demonstrate effects of drug driving to student drivers. June 20th kicks off the first day, 100 days of summer, which are the deadliest for teen drivers. On average, 260 teens are killed in car crashes each month during the summer. This is a 26% increase compared to other months of the year. While there are many factors that contribute to teen driving fatalities, driving under the influence of drugs is one of them. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, approximately 18% of all motor vehicle driver deaths involve drugs other than alcohol. So Ford got on board with this, police department's got on board with this, and they went into Bremen High School, and I see our Officer Gully is in the picture. That's nice. So yeah, we thank Ford and we thank Bremen High School for doing what they can to keep our teens safe. What else I got? Treasurer Britton just wanted me to let everybody know that we are continuing to get our rebate refund of the 6% county tax on fuel that we pay that we should not be paying. Well, like she said, I don't know why they just stopped charging us. I don't know why, but they have to take our money first, and then they rebate us. Chief Hotwender want me to reappoint. Okay. Department of Transportation Highways is pleased to inform you that improvements are about to begin on the above caption project. It is improvements to Kedzie Avenue from Country Air Drive to 147th Street in the village of Posen, Midlothian, and Markham. Grinding, patching, overlaying, sidewalk removal and ADA compliant ramps, striping, guardrail removal and replacement, restoration of other appurtenant work is required. Right. So I have that information. I'm sure you know about that, Phil. Relay for Life, this is in June, I think. Well, never too early to start. So Relay for Life, Central Cook County community, and they're like us, because we're a Central Cook County community, they like to be part of it. Residents from Central Cook County come together for a very special event. They gather to remember those who we've lost to cancer, and they come together and fight back against this terrible disease. Again, they like to be a part of the event. They're part of the opening ceremony. This is going to happen June 22nd, 2019. I'm going to keep it in my folder and continue to remind people. It's in Oak Lawn, so it's not far. Oak Lawn Park District. Everyone knows about the EQ compost. Go get your EQ compost. Did I already talk about PAWS? May 31st coming up. The PAWS soiree. Tinley Park, 45th anniversary of saving animals' lives. The soiree is Friday, May 31st, 6 to 11 p.m. at the Giorgio's Banquet in Orland. So I've got that information here. Missed that. And that is all I have, except to wish everyone a very happy Memorial Day and remember what it's about. So, Clerk Boswell.
Just a few items. The board should have a copy in board docs of the FOIA report for April. A reminder that Thursday, May 30th at 7 p.m. we will have a second State of the Village address with Ray Day Lodge. And lastly, also a reminder, I sent the board some information. Deputy Clerk Kalaki and I will be hosting the South and West Suburban Municipal Clerks Association for their June meeting. And you are invited to attend if you would like to come for dinner. Please let me know.
When is it?
June 6th.
Is it a Thursday?
It's a Thursday. It's 6:30. And that is all I have.
Mayor, do you know when the Memorial Day service is?
No one's made me aware of any service. I'm not sure.
For the veteran, for
Memorial Day.
by the PSW?
No, usually by the
Memorial.
Park.
It's usually on Sunday, but.
But I find out
I
later
say I
on.
was somewhere in my person talking about it, I don't remember where.
Can I just ask, I'm not sure who has these documents, but will the documents that Attorney Valdez discussed this evening, the two Ricky Rockets documents, and then the master poll attachment for the small wireless facilities, could you send those to me in Word? I don't know if they're in Word on here. I don't know how to get them off of here onto my computer.
He emailed you.
Yeah,
Well, you sent her the original.
Yeah, these are PDFs on here. I would like the
I think we got a
documents.
separate email from you with
Yeah.
the Ricky Rockets document.
Wait, the separate email that he sent us was the original RDA for Ricky
Right,
Rockets.
right.
These documents that are on the board docs now, I would like them in Word, if possible.
Maria will attempt to convert them for you.
Did you get them in Word, or did you get
No.
them in?
I did not.
Well, isn't that nice?
I will check though.
Could you ask the attorneys to please send them to us in Word? That would be helpful.
Do we have a license with Adobe to convert?
I do, yes.
So
It's
we
you.
can convert.
Well, it would be nice if the attorneys sent them to us in Word, in a Word fashion, so that we don't have to do that. It's not Nick's
Are you
fault.
done?
Maybe, maybe not.
Seeing as there's no further business coming for the board,
Aye.
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I will make the motion.
Sorry.
Trustee Price made the motion.
Second.
Trustee Crowley seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nope.
Always count on you, Don.
Yes. Have a great week.
What would we do without you, Don?
Kathy, I would love to work with you.
Don? I'm telling you, I'm very